So we're going to be making an infinity scarf like this. Just wraps around. Pretty. So I prefer country loom. This color is Solarium. 104 yards, which you're not going to need 104. I suggest maybe 50 yards. You could probably use different kind of yarn, but I would just make sure that it's small. You probably use any kind of yarn you want as long as it's like little. So first what you want to do is take the tail of your yarn. This is the tail. Make sure you have a really long piece of yarn. Really long tail. And then what you're going to do is you're going to twist it. And then twist it again. And then grab, this is called the working piece of yarn. So you're going to grab the working piece of yarn and make a slip knot. Okay, so just in case you didn't get that. Tail, twist once, twist again, grab the working piece, and pull. You want to tighten that up on your finger. So you have this nice working piece, this nice tail. So then what you do is you want to put your fingers through it like this, pull it around so it makes a V. Or your working is here, your tail is here. So slide under here, and then grab this piece and make another loop. It's just like knitting. Under the thumb piece, grab this piece and the loop. So we're grabbing this piece that you have and then grabbing this one. And the reason you want a long tail is so you can, because it gets shorter and you want to make more of these. So I say about 8 or 10. That's my ideal. The one I made here is, I think, it's either 10 or 14 across. So now that you have this lovely row, you're going to take the first loop off, stick your fingers through it, and grab the working piece of yarn, which is the long piece of yarn, and then just pull. And you just grab the next one, put your fingers through it, and grab the string. Tighten. Grab the next loop, put your fingers through it, grab the string, and pull. So you're taking the loop, you can move them up off your fingers, taking one loop off, sticking both fingers through it, and grabbing the really long piece of string and putting it on your finger. So you just do this a few times till you get to the end. Make sure you don't grab your tail, because that'll be bad. It's important to tighten it so that the row is even all the way across. Don't worry if it won't tighten, that just means it's as far as it'll go. So you have this little patch to start off with. Now the trick is, if you want it to have these lines in it, you can't really see it, these lines, and on the other side of the scarf, it'll have like a line that goes down the middle of those two lines. There's a trick to getting that, but if you just want consecutive lines and then like a smooth back to your scarf, then if you want the back of your scarf to be smooth and the front to have the line, just keep your working yarn in front of you and grabbing it from the back like that, like before, except for with the opposite hand. Put the fingers of the hand that you want the loop to go on into the loop that you pulled off, grab the working yarn and pull. Boop. Boop. Now, if you want it so that these ridges are on both sides, whenever you get to your other finger, instead of having it in front of you, you pull it behind you and just grab it from there. I'll show you in this next part. Okay, in the last clip I left off, the yarn was on this finger, and I did another row across to show you how I would make it if I wanted the ridges of this, like the knots on both sides of the scarf instead of it being rigid on one, smooth on the other side. So instead of having my yarn in front of me like we've been having, whatever side you pull from is where the ridges will be. So instead of having it in front of you and grabbing it through, you want to put it towards you. So you're putting your fingers through these holes, but instead of grabbing it in front like before, you want to grab it from behind you, from behind the scarf. So we're pulling here, grabbing it from behind to make the ridges on the other side. You can move your fingers around whichever way feels comfortable for you. I like to keep all my fingers on this side when I'm knitting from my left hand to my right hand, but whenever I'm knitting from my right hand to my left hand, I like my fingers in front. That may have just been confusing, but you can ignore it if it made no sense, because it doesn't really matter. It's just preference. So keep grabbing from behind, and at this point your yarn will stay behind your scarf, so you don't have to worry about grabbing it from the wrong side. I just like to keep it in my hand so I can just go through the loop and then have it right there. And then when you come back to this side, you'd keep it in front of you as before. If you pull on this a little, whenever you go to make your first stitch on a new hand, it'll help you tighten it better, because often it just gets stuck up there. You just pull on this to make sure it's as far down as it'll go. Make sure you keep your working yarn in your finger. Just pull on this, and then pull on your working yarn to make it tight. But not too tight, because if it's too tight, you can't get it off your fingers. So as before, pull, tight, you put your fingers through, grab it, pull tight. There you go. You just keep doing that over and over again until you either run out of yarn or it's as long as you want it to be. But make sure if you're making an infinity scarf, it's long enough to wrap around your head 2 or 3 times. Don't worry if you start over again, because it's common. All you have to do is If you need to start over again, take it off your finger, just pull on the working yarn, and it'll eventually all come out. But don't do that if you don't want it all to come out. So when you're done, and you have it as long as you want, I didn't just do this in 5 minutes, it's taken me like 3 hours. You want to very carefully pull it off your finger so you have all the loops. Be careful not to pull them out from the working. Be careful not to pull on the working yarn, or else they'll all come out. What I would do is try and put your finger back through, but start on the end with the string coming out. You'll see why in a minute. Or if you have a chopstick or a knitting needle or pencil, you could, or a paintbrush, something long, you can put it through the hole so you don't have to try to jam your finger in there. So I'm going to actually use a knitting needle and just, it's easier to get through the loops than reinserting your finger. Also, if you need to stop at any time, I also suggest very carefully taking it off your finger and putting something in it, like a pencil or a knitting needle or a chopstick. And then when you go to restart, just remember that the yarn is always facing away from your hand, so you'd put it back on your finger like this. Or if it was this way, you'd put it back on this hand because the string is pointing that way. So what you're going to do is you're going to take this end loop and you're going to grab this other loop and pull it through. So you just have this loop. Then grab the other loop. And then you just kind of keep grabbing the next loop, pulling it through, making sure your fingers through it. So grab this loop, pull it through, grab the next loop, pull it through, grab the next loop, pull it through, grab the next loop, until it's all done. And the most important thing is to think whether or not you want an infinity scarf or a regular scarf. If you want an infinity scarf, we're going to cut a bigger piece of yarn. But if you don't want an infinity scarf, I suggest cutting a shorter piece of yarn. So since we're doing an infinity scarf, probably gonna do it about this big. Don't let go of that last loop, because you're gonna need it. So now you're gonna take this last loop you have and pull the string through. Just pull on it. That's all. Good. Okay, what you want to do if you want an infinity scarf is find the other end, make sure your scarf will be straight. Line up the ends, and now each end probably won't look the same because this end you started with will be shorter. Just pull that end out a little. Then what you want to do is you want to take this extra yarn, and probably the extra yarn you have on the other side. Find a little hole or opening near the top of your two pieces when you put them together. See, I put these two ends of the scarf together. And you just want to take the string, pull it through a hole, and just keep wrapping and pulling it through the holes, and you'll get kind of a thicker seam. And they'll just have to put that part behind their neck. But then when you turn it inside out, you won't see the seam. When the ends aren't as tight as one another, sometimes you can tell that there's a difference. But it'll be okay. I actually don't feel bad if you have to start over, because I do it all the time. So we're just winding it around through a hole, winding it around. And now this tail that I cut isn't long enough, so I'm just gonna leave it at this much, and then go to the other side, grab the other tail that was left over in the beginning, and start doing the same thing, winding it through holes in the scarf by sticking my finger through and just pushing out the yarn. Once I get to the other piece of yarn, I'll show you. So now that we've got both strings on opposite sides, I'm gonna tie it off. It's okay if you don't have a string from the beginning, if you already cut it off. Just make sure your working tail is long enough to go all the way around. If not, you'll just have a regular scarf. And if you want just a regular scarf, I suggest poking the string through a hole and then pulling it through the loop that the yarn makes and tightening it. So like if you pull the yarn through a hole, you still have this little loop, just pull it through. We're not going to do that for an infinity scarf. We're just going to tie these two ends together. Or you would do that if you only had one strand at the end. You would just pull it through the circle to tie it off. So we're just going to tie it one simple way. Then I'm going to take this one, wind it so it's on the opposite side. Take this one and pull it through the hole so it's also on the opposite side. So you have it like this again. And then just tie it off. Or just tie it off as well as you think it needs. Snip the ends. Make sure it's really tight. So then you have your seam. You just turn it inside out. And voila! You have an infinity scarf.